Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to do another demonstration of using pen and ink and watercolor to draw and paint flowers. And as I said, in the future I'm going to be doing more videos on incorporating watercolor with pen and ink, as well as all the color media like colored pencil, maybe markers, and so on. One of the things I'll point out is that watercolor is a little challenging, okay? In that, see, with acrylic or oil or non-watercolor media, you have a lot more control. The thing that is most scary, I think, about watercolor is the fact that the water is running. There's not that much control you have over the medium. Now, I am a linear artist, and what do I mean by that? Well, I tend to want to define forms more with, like, say for example, a linear artist will tend to do this to define the shape of the form. See? Now, a painterly artist will tend more to do this. So painterly artists will tend to be more inclined to define form with value, tones, and so on, while a linear artist will tend to be more inclined to use line first, then tone. See, that's my tendency. I will tend to use line and then tone. Now, does it mean one is better than the other? No, definitely not. It's just a matter of different style. It's just like people are different. You just like apples, somebody likes oranges. There's no difference. It's just a different fruit. But the point I'm making is it's good to know what is your inclination. See, a part of improving as an artist is paying attention to yourself. A lot of introspection, reflecting on what you do and how you do it and why you do it. See, that tells that's the biggest, I think, the biggest indication or direction to learning what your style is. Reflecting on yourself. When you draw something, sometimes don't pay too much attention to it, but when you're done, you should reflect on it and say, okay, why do I tend to do this and not that? Well, that may be telling you something about yourself. You know, if you do something over and over and over and over, and you find that whenever you do it, you tend to go in this direction for some reason and not that direction. Well, maybe I think this is a clear indicator about something about yourself, some tendency you have, some interest you have, all right, some passion you have, some strength you have. So you have to inform yourself by reflecting on your own drawing process. Okay, now why do I say that in terms of watercolor? Well, with watercolor, when I'm painting, since I'm more of a linear artist, I like having control. So that means I will tend not to use as much water in my media. I'll tend to slow it down, and that's something I advise for someone just starting out in watercolor. Go easy on the wet and wet methods, meaning where you have a lot of water and you see the paint runs. You know, be careful of stuff like that. Like a wet and wet is something like this. Like there's a lot of water and then you see that's wet and wet. See, the brush is wet, the paper is wet, and the color runs. Me, I tend to do more of a even if I do wet on wet, it's not as wet. So in other words, I like being able to do this. See how light that is? And there's not that much water. See, that's my approach. And that's what I generally encourage with someone just beginning in watercolor. And also lay down your colors lightly and in layers. Okay, don't go too heavy. You know, there's a difference with going like this, okay, as opposed to going like this. You see what I mean? This allows a lot more modification. I can go over this again with another color. I can you know, even pick some color out of this. See, I can still take some color out. You know, with this, it doesn't allow you that much correction. This is less forgiving than this is, all right? So, and there's eventually I can make this look like this. All right, so the point I'm making is learn to be patient. You know, don't rush, don't go too fast. You know, don't go too fast in terms of speed, literally. Don't go too fast in terms of using too much water, and don't go too fast in terms of using too much pigment. All right, slow your roll a little bit. Now, you can do the drawing in pencil, and then paint, and then do the ink afterwards. So, you know, understand that you can vary your process. You can skip the you know, the pencil drawing all together and just go straight in with ink. You know, be a little bit more loose. It's up to you. All right. You can do the pencil and then do the watercolor and then do the ink. You can do the ink and, you know, so you can vary. You can even just do the watercolor and then go over it and touch it up with the ink. All right. So don't feel like there's only one way to approach this thing. As a matter of fact, you should approach it in different ways and then see what is your natural tendency. Okay. See which one is your preference. Just experiment. So let's get started. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the pencil work. Now I'm going to pretty much go over them with ink, but as I said, I'm going to be keeping the ink work pretty light. And I'm going to try to keep the forms open. See, so I'm keeping the forms really open. Now what you'll notice, okay, like for example, I'll change the weight as I move from the base to the open areas. So like for example here, notice I'm pressing down a lot more. When I get here, it gets really light and even open. I leave it like that. See, and that's all I'm doing. And even though people generally say like, you know, pens like these, like even with the, trying to find a Prismacolor, but with pens like these, they say there isn't much line weight. You can have line weight with these. Of course, it's not as the line variation is not as great, but you can still have line variation. You see it right here, thick, thin. Okay. All depends on how hard you press. Thick, thin. And remember, you can leave certain places open like this. You can just leave it like that. You don't have to close it. I think it works best when you don't close it. You know, let the color do that. Especially in places where the flower is catching a lot of light, you know. In places like here, there's a lot more shadow, so I'm going to be heavier. For this, I'm going to be using my number 6 brush. I may use a number 4 for doing like little details and stuff like that, but yeah, I think a number 6 would be fine to do. You can do virtually anything with a round brush. Okay, so even if you don't have the money to get, you know, the different types of like a flat brush and, you know, a mop brush and all these things, it's worth it to buy a good quality medium-sized round brush. If you're going to invest in one, if you can only buy one good brush, I would say buy a medium-sized, good quality round brush. All right, and you're good from there. All right. yeah, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys got some useful tips from this that you can apply to your own drawings.